My name is Ethan. For as long as I can remember, I've been the quiet, reliable one in my family. My younger brother, Jared, was always the favorite, the one who needed more attention, more support, more everything. It wasn't like my parents were cruel to me, they just didn't see me in the same way. Jared got praise for every little thing, while I was expected to just keep it together. I learned to manage on my own because it seemed like that's what they wanted from me. I wasn't the one who needed encouragement, or a shoulder to lean on. At least, that's what they thought. It all came to a head last week. I had just gotten promoted at work, a big deal after months of putting in extra hours. I wanted to share that excitement with my family, so I invited Mom, Dad, and Jared over for dinner. I planned it all out, cooked from scratch, cleaned up my place, and even got a cake. I sent a message in our family group chat. "Dinner at mine at 7. Got some news to share." Mom responded with a quick thumbs up emoji. I took that as a good sign. But when 7 p.m. rolled around, no one showed up. I tried calling Mom, but it went to voicemail. Jared didn't pick up either. By 8:30, I was pacing around my apartment, trying not to let frustration take over. Finally, I got through to Mom. She sounded way too casual. "Oh, honey, we're out at Jared's favorite steakhouse. He just got hired at the dealership. We wanted to celebrate. Didn't he tell you?" I felt like I'd been slapped. "No," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Well, we'll come by next weekend," she said, brushing it off like it wasn't a big deal. I didn't even bother replying. I just hung up and stared at the cold food on the table. It wasn't just disappointment. It was the realization that this wasn't new. It had always been like this. Jared needed them, so they dropped everything. I succeeded, and it was just another day. I texted my best friend Jake, who was quick to respond. "Come over, man. Let's talk it out." When I got to his place, he took one look at me and handed me a beer. I tried to explain what happened without sounding bitter. But he saw right through me. "That's not normal, Ethan. They should be celebrating you, not blowing you off. You've been busting your ass for this promotion." I nodded, but guilt gnawed at me. "Maybe I'm overreacting. Jared's had a rough year. They probably just wanted to lift his spirits." Jake gave me a look. "Yeah, but when's the last time they did that for you? You've always been the one keeping things together. That doesn't mean you don't deserve support." I hadn't thought of it that way before. Maybe I'd just gotten so used to being overlooked that I convinced myself it didn't matter. But it did. It mattered a lot. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how many times I'd been in this position. Doing well, working hard, only for my achievements to be brushed aside. Because Jared needed the spotlight more. I wasn't angry at Jared, not really. It wasn't his fault that he needed more help. But I was angry at myself for letting it slide for so long. For always being the one to step back and let them prioritize him. The next morning, I made a decision. I couldn't keep pretending that I didn't care. It wasn't fair to me, and it wasn't helping them see how much it hurt. For once, I wasn't going to just let it go. I needed to make them understand how their choices made me feel. Not just brush it off like I always did. If I didn't speak up now, I'd be stuck in this cycle forever. And I was done feeling like the backup plan. The next morning, Ethan was still replaying the conversation with his mom in his head. Her casual dismissal of his celebration haunted him, and he knew he couldn't just let it go. He grabbed his phone and typed out a message. "We need to talk. I can't keep pretending everything's fine. Can you and Dad come over tonight?" He hesitated before pressing send, but once he did, a strange sense of relief washed over him. It was time. A few minutes later, Mom replied. "Of course. We'll be there after 7. Ethan took a deep breath. He wasn't used to initiating these conversations. Usually, he just bottled it up and moved on. But not this time. That evening, he set up his apartment, trying not to make it too formal. He didn't want them to feel like they were walking into an interrogation. But he also didn't want to make it too casual. As 7 o'clock approached, his nerves started to get the better of him. He texted Jake. "They're coming over. Gonna finally say it." Jake replied almost instantly. "Good. Don't hold back. They need to hear it." When his parents arrived, they seemed almost too cheerful. Like they thought this was just a casual get-together. After some small talk, Ethan couldn't take it anymore. "Mom, Dad, I asked you here because I need to talk about what happened the other night. They glanced at each other, their smiles fading. Mom spoke first. Ethan, we didn't mean to hurt you. Jared's been having such a rough time, and we just wanted to lift his spirits. Ethan swallowed his frustration. That's the thing, Mom. It's always about Jared needing support, but what about me? I got a promotion, something I worked really hard for. And you just didn't show up. It wasn't just that one night. It's been like this for years. Whenever Jared needs you, you drop everything. But when I succeed, it's like it doesn't matter. His dad shifted uncomfortably. We didn't think you needed that kind of attention. You've always been the strong one. Ethan clenched his fists, trying to stay calm. Being strong doesn't mean I don't want your support. It doesn't mean I don't want to feel important sometimes. I'm tired of being the one who's always okay just because I don't make a scene. Mom's face softened. We never wanted you to feel that way. We just thought you didn't need us the same way Jared does. Ethan shook his head. That's the problem. You never asked? You just assumed I didn't need you. There was a heavy silence. Finally, Dad spoke up. We didn't realize. We just got used to you being the dependable one. We took it for granted. Ethan couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and sadness. I'm not saying you have to choose between us. I just need you to see me too. I can't keep feeling like I'm always in the background. Mom wiped at her eyes, clearly struggling. We're sorry, Ethan. We should have celebrated your promotion. You deserve that. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. At least they were listening. When his parents left, Ethan texted Jake. Talk to them. They actually listened. Not sure if it'll stick, but it's a start. Jake replied. Proud of you, man. Keep holding your ground. Ethan knew he couldn't just settle for a single apology. This needed to be a long-term change. But at least, for once, he had made them see his side. Over the next few days, Ethan noticed small changes. His mom sent a text one afternoon. Thinking of you. Hope work is going well. Love you. It was a simple message, but it was unexpected. Usually, the only time she texted was to ask for help or share news about Jared. He replied with a quick, Thanks, Mom. Work's good. Hope you're well too. It felt strange to receive that kind of attention without it being prompted. Jared also started texting more, mostly just random updates about his new job. It wasn't anything deep, but it felt like an effort to stay connected. Ethan didn't know whether to feel relieved or suspicious. Were they really trying, or just reacting out of guilt from the confrontation? He shared his thoughts with Jake during their usual Friday night hangout. I don't know, man. Ethan admitted. It's like they're trying, but I can't tell if it's just because I finally snapped at them. Jake shrugged. Maybe it's a bit of both. Sometimes people don't realize they're screwing up until you call them out. Maybe they're just waking up to the fact that you deserve more. Ethan nodded, still not fully convinced. I guess I just don't want to get my hopes up. It's hard to believe they'll actually keep this up. Jake smirked. Well, just remember, if they start slacking, you've got me to back you up. Ethan smiled. Yeah, I know. Thanks. That Sunday, Ethan's parents invited him over for lunch, just him, not Jared. He felt a pang of guilt, wondering if it was wrong to separate things this way. But he also knew he needed time with them without feeling overshadowed. When he arrived, the atmosphere was surprisingly relaxed. Mom had cooked his favorite meal, roast chicken with mashed potatoes. Dad greeted him with a genuine smile. Glad you could make it, son, he said. As they sat down to eat, the conversation was mostly about Ethan's new responsibilities at work. They asked questions, seemed genuinely interested, and didn't steer the conversation toward Jared even once. It was refreshing, but it also felt like walking on eggshells. Like they were being too careful, afraid of upsetting him. After lunch, Mom sat next to him on the couch, her expression thoughtful. We've been talking a lot since that night, she admitted. We really didn't realize how much we were neglecting you. It's not an excuse, but we just got used to you being the one who didn't need us as much. Ethan nodded. I get that, but it doesn't make it hurt any less. I just needed you to see me too. Dad chimed in, his voice softer than usual. You've always been the dependable one. But that doesn't mean you don't deserve to be celebrated. We're proud of you, Ethan. We just didn't show it like we should have. Ethan felt a mix of relief and lingering doubt. He wanted to believe them, but years of being overlooked weren't so easily forgotten. I just need consistency, he said. It can't just be 1 or 2 dinners where you act like I matter. I need to feel like I'm part of the family all the time. Mom squeezed his hand. We'll work on it. We really will. He nodded, accepting the promise cautiously. It was a start, but he wouldn't let himself settle for just that. On his way home, Ethan thought about the small steps his parents were taking. It was more than he'd expected, but he knew it wouldn't be easy to fully trust the change. As much as he wanted to just be happy with the progress, he couldn't help but wonder how long it would last. The idea of being forgotten again was too painful to fully dismiss. When he got home, he found a message from Jared. Hey man. Let's hang out soon. Just us. Miss you. Ethan stared at the screen, unsure how to feel. Jared rarely made plans without Mom being the one to organize it. It felt like Jared was genuinely making an effort too. He texted back. Yeah, let's do it. You pick the place. For once, it didn't feel forced. Maybe things were finally shifting. Maybe they were starting to see him. Ethan couldn't predict the future, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let his voice be drowned out again. Ethan was trying to find a balance between being hopeful and being realistic. Every time his mom sent a thoughtful text or Jared made plans, he wondered if it was genuine or just a reaction to his outburst. He wanted to believe that they'd changed, but history had taught him to be cautious. He kept reminding himself that one good week didn't make up for years of feeling overlooked. One evening, Jared called unexpectedly. Hey man. You busy? Was thinking we could grab some wings and catch up. Ethan hesitated. Yeah? I'm free. Meet you at Joe's? Perfect. See you in 20? As he hung up, Ethan couldn't help but feel a flicker of anxiety. He wasn't used to Jared being the one to initiate plans. Usually, Jared just assumed Ethan would join whatever he was doing. Maybe this was another small step in the right direction. When they met at the bar, Jared seemed more relaxed than usual. After they ordered, he turned to Ethan, looking a bit uncomfortable. I've been thinking a lot about what you said. Jared began. You know, about always being the one who gets the attention. I never really thought about it from your side before. Ethan raised an eyebrow. What changed? Jared shrugged. I guess I just realized that I never had to think about it. You were always just there, you know? Handling things. I got used to it, and I guess Mom and Dad did too. Ethan took a sip of his drink, unsure how to respond. I guess I just wanted to feel like I mattered too, he said quietly. Jared looked genuinely remorseful. You do. I never saw how much you were sacrificing. And I hate that you felt like you couldn't talk to me about it. Ethan sighed. It wasn't just you. I guess I was too afraid of rocking the boat. But I'm tired of pretending I'm fine when I'm not. Jared nodded. I get that. I don't want you to feel like you're always second place. I know I can be selfish, but I'm trying to be better. If I'm being a jerk, just tell me straight up, okay? Ethan smirked. Deal. The night went surprisingly well. For the first time, it didn't feel like Jared was trying to dominate the conversation. They actually talked about Ethan's promotion, his plans at work, and his goals for the future. Jared listened, really listened, and even asked questions. By the end of the night, Ethan almost felt like they were brothers. Not just two people sharing a space. It was a good feeling, but he still kept his guard up, not wanting to fall into the trap of thinking everything was fixed. The next morning, Ethan got a call from his dad. Hey son. Just wanted to see if you'd like to go fishing this weekend. Just you and me. Thought it might be nice to spend some time together. Ethan hesitated, not sure if Dad was trying to make amends or just filling a Saturday. Yeah, that sounds good, he replied. Great. I'll pick you up around 7. After hanging up, Ethan texted Jake. Dad wants to do a father-son thing this weekend. Weird, right? Jake replied almost immediately. Weird, but maybe good. Give it a shot. You'll never know if it's real if you don't. Ethan knew Jake was right. He couldn't keep second-guessing every move his family made. If they were genuinely trying, he had to give them the opportunity to prove it. That weekend, sitting by the lake with his dad, Ethan felt a bit more at ease. They cast their lines and settled into the quiet. Dad finally spoke. I know I haven't always been the dad you needed. You've always been so strong, I just assumed you didn't need me like Jared did. Ethan kept his eyes on the water. Maybe I didn't need help the same way. But that didn't mean I didn't want your support. Dad nodded slowly. That's on me. I shouldn't have let your silence convince me you were fine. I just want you to know I'm proud of you. Not just for the promotion, but for being the kind of man who doesn't give up. Ethan didn't say anything right away. Just let the words settle. It wasn't perfect, but it felt real. And that was something. After they caught a few fish, Dad suggested grabbing lunch on the way home. It wasn't much, just burgers from a roadside stand. But it felt like an effort to reconnect. Ethan found himself smiling more than he expected. Maybe this wasn't just a temporary change. Maybe they were really starting to see him. That night, Ethan sat on his couch, reflecting on how different things felt. It wasn't just that his family was trying harder. It was that he was letting them. For the first time, he wasn't just waiting for them to disappoint him. He was cautiously hopeful, and that made all the difference. A week after the fishing trip with his dad, Ethan received an unexpected call from Jared. Hey, I'm planning a small get-together at my place this weekend. Just some friends, pizza, and drinks. Thought you might want to come by. Ethan hesitated. Jared's social events were usually chaotic, and he'd often felt out of place among Jared's friends. But Jared's tone sounded more considerate this time, like he genuinely wanted Ethan there. Yeah, sure. I'll be there, Ethan replied, wondering if this was another small step toward bridging the gap between them. When Saturday rolled around, Ethan showed up at Jared's place, half expecting to be overshadowed once again. But Jared greeted him with a casual hug and introduced him to a few friends, making sure Ethan didn't feel like an outsider. It wasn't a huge deal, but it was different from how things used to be. Jared even pulled him aside at one point. Hey, I know I haven't been great at including you in stuff before, but I wanted you here. It means a lot that you came. Ethan gave a small smile. I appreciate it. It's good to just hang out without feeling like the odd one out. Jared nodded, and for the first time, Ethan felt like he was being treated as more than just Jared's quieter older brother. After the party wound down, Jared asked him to stay a bit longer. They sat on the porch, talking about work, family, and random things. Jared seemed genuinely curious about Ethan's job, asking questions that showed he was actually listening. It was a small thing, but it mattered. At one point, Jared sighed. You know, I've been thinking a lot about how I just assumed you didn't need us. I guess I was wrong about that. I didn't see how much you were holding in. Ethan looked down, fiddling with the bottle cap in his hand. I didn't make it easy to see. I just figured it was better to keep quiet than make waves. Jared shook his head. That's on us. We should have noticed. I want to do better, you know? I don't want you to feel like I'm always stealing the spotlight. Ethan couldn't help but feel a bit of hope. I know you didn't mean to. I just got used to being in the background. But I'm tired of being invisible. Jared nodded, his expression serious. Then I'll make sure you're not. The next day, Ethan got a call from his mom. She sounded more upbeat than usual. I've been looking up some recipes. I thought maybe next weekend you could come over. And we could cook together. Just you and me. Ethan was taken aback. Usually, cooking was Mom's way of bonding with Jared, especially when he was feeling down. It felt odd to be the one she wanted to spend time with. Yeah, I'd like that, he replied, a little unsure. She hesitated. I know I haven't always shown it, but I love you, Ethan. And I want to be better at showing it. He could hear the vulnerability in her voice. Thanks, Mom. That means a lot. That evening, Ethan called Jake to update him. I think they're really trying, man. It's weird. I keep waiting for it to go back to how it was. But so far, it hasn't. Jake chuckled. Maybe they finally woke up and realized they were screwing up. Just keep being honest with them. If they start slipping, don't let it slide. Ethan nodded. You're right. I guess I'm just not used to being seen. It feels weird but good. Jake's tone softened. You deserve it, dude. Don't let them make you doubt that. Over the next week, Ethan kept noticing small changes. His mom called a few times just to chat. Not because she needed something from him. His dad texted updates from work. Like he actually wanted to include Ethan in his day. And Jared sent a photo from his new job with the caption, Actually doing well today. Thought you'd like to know. Ethan smiled at the message, realizing that Jared was slowly learning to reach out, without it being all about his own struggles. Ethan still wasn't fully convinced that everything would change permanently. But he knew that real progress didn't happen overnight. His family was starting to realize that he wasn't just the strong, quiet one who could handle being ignored. He was someone who deserved to feel valued too. For the first time, he didn't feel like he was just waiting for things to go back to the way they were. He was actively shaping how he wanted to be treated. Sitting on his balcony that night, Ethan felt something he hadn't in a long time. Contentment. He wasn't naive enough to think that everything was fixed. But for the first time, he was allowing himself to believe that maybe things could really get better. And he was ready to make sure they did. A few weeks had passed since Ethan first confronted his family, and he couldn't deny that things seemed different. His parents called him regularly, not just when they needed something. And Jared had made it a point to check in without waiting for Ethan to reach out first. It was subtle, but it was there, the feeling that he was finally being seen. But despite the progress, Ethan found himself wrestling with doubt. What if it didn't last? What if they just slipped back into old habits the moment he let his guard down? One Friday evening, Ethan got a text from his mom. "Thinking of you, Dad, and I would love to take you out for dinner tomorrow. Your choice." He couldn't help but smile at the message. Usually, family dinners were spontaneous and often revolved around Jared's schedule. This felt more intentional. Ethan replied, "Sounds great. How about that new Italian place downtown?" Mom confirmed right away, and Ethan felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The next evening, he arrived at the restaurant a few minutes early. He chose a table near the window and watched as his parents arrived, both looking a bit nervous but happy to be there. As they sat down, Mom started with a cautious smile. "We've been looking forward to this. It feels good to spend time just with you." Ethan nodded, appreciating the sentiment. "Yeah, it does." They ordered their meals, and for once, the conversation flowed naturally. Dad asked more about Ethan's new responsibilities at work, and Mom seemed genuinely interested in hearing about his plans for the future. There was no rush, no sense of obligation, just a simple, pleasant dinner. At one point, Dad paused, his tone more serious. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About how we always assumed you didn't need us. That wasn't fair. We just got so used to leaning on you because you never complained. I want you to know we're trying to be better about that." Ethan appreciated the honesty. "I get it. I just needed you to see me too. I didn't want to always be the one who just handled things on my own." Mom squeezed his hand. "We see you, Ethan. And we're so proud of you. We just didn't realize how much we were putting on you without thinking." After dinner, they walked back to their car together. Before they left, Dad pulled him into a quick hug. "I know we can't change the past, but we're really trying. Thanks for giving us a chance to make it right." Ethan felt a tightness in his chest that wasn't from sadness. It was something closer to relief. "Thanks for listening. That's all I wanted." As they drove off, Ethan stood there for a moment, letting the feeling sink in. It wasn't a complete resolution, but it felt genuine. That night, he texted Jake. "Dinner with the parents actually went well. They're really making an effort. Feels weird to finally believe it." Jake replied. "Glad to hear it. You deserve to feel good about this. Just take it one step at a time." Ethan knew Jake was right. He couldn't rush into completely trusting them again. But he also couldn't keep bracing for the worst. He had to let himself appreciate the good moments when they happened. A few days later, Jared called unexpectedly. "Hey, wanna hit the gym tomorrow? Thought we could do something together that's not just sitting around." Ethan almost laughed at the idea of Jared being proactive about exercise. "Yeah, I'm in." "What time?" "Morning. I'll pick you up at 8. Ethan agreed, feeling a flicker of excitement. Working out wasn't usually their thing, but maybe this was Jared's way of keeping the connection going. The next morning, they met up and went through a casual workout routine. It wasn't about pushing limits, more about just spending time together. Afterward, over smoothies, Jared looked thoughtful. "You know, I was talking to Mom, and she told me how much it meant that you didn't just shut us out. I know we messed up, but I'm glad you gave us the chance to make it right." Ethan shrugged. "I didn't want to lose you guys. I just needed things to change. Jared smiled. Fair. But for what it's worth, I'm glad you called us out. It made me realize how easy it was to just take you for granted. Hearing that made Ethan feel like things might actually be shifting for good. As he walked back to his apartment, Ethan realized he wasn't just waiting for the next letdown. He was letting himself enjoy the progress. Finally feeling like he could breathe without always expecting disappointment. For once, he felt like he wasn't just a part of the family by obligation, but by choice. And that made all the difference. Just when Ethan was starting to feel more secure in his family's efforts, he got a call from Jared one afternoon. Hey man. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Mom's planning a family dinner this weekend, but it's mostly about me. Ethan paused, caught off guard. Oh. What's the occasion? Jared hesitated. Apparently Mom and Dad are really proud of how I've been doing at work. I didn't even know they were planning it until she called me. Ethan tried to keep his voice neutral. Right. That's good for you, man. Jared seemed to pick up on his tone. I didn't ask for it. And I know it's not fair. I just thought you should know before she invites you. Ethan forced a smile through the phone. Thanks for the heads up. After hanging up, Ethan couldn't help but feel a knot forming in his stomach. Hadn't they just started making progress? Hadn't his parents promised to see him more clearly? He couldn't help but feel like they were slipping back into the old pattern. Dropping everything to celebrate Jared while his own achievements faded into the background. He needed advice, so he texted Jake. They're throwing a dinner for Jared. Feels like we're right back where we started. Jake replied quickly. Talk to them before it happens. Don't let them slide back. You've come too far for that. Ethan knew Jake was right. He couldn't just sit back and let his progress be undone. He called his mom. Hey Mom. Jared told me about the dinner. She sounded cheerful. Oh yes. Isn't it great? He's been doing so well, and we wanted to show him how proud we are. Ethan took a deep breath. Yeah, that's great, but it feels a bit sudden. You just threw that dinner for me not long ago. It kind of feels like you're back to putting him first. The line went quiet. Mom finally spoke, sounding a bit uncertain. I didn't think of it that way. We just wanted to encourage him. You know how he struggles with confidence. Ethan bit back his frustration. I get that. But you said you wanted to make me feel more seen. And now it feels like that was just temporary. Mom's tone softened. You're right, Ethan. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. I guess we're still learning how to balance it. Maybe we should make the dinner about both of you. Celebrate how you've both been growing. Ethan felt a wave of relief. That sounds better. I just don't want to go back to feeling invisible. She promised to make it more inclusive. And for the first time, Ethan didn't feel like he was the one who had to just accept things. When the dinner actually happened, it was more balanced than he expected. Mom made a point to talk about both of their achievements, not just Jared's progress. During the meal, Jared raised his glass. Here's to both of us doing better. Me at work and Ethan at setting boundaries, finally. Everyone laughed, and Ethan couldn't help but smile. It felt good to be acknowledged, not just as the dependable brother, but as someone who had learned to speak up. After dinner, Dad pulled him aside. I'm proud of you, you know. Not just for your job, but for standing up for yourself. I know it's not easy. We're still figuring it out, but I want you to know we hear you. Ethan nodded, appreciating the honesty. I just don't want to go back to how things were. It took a lot for me to finally say something. Dad put a hand on his shoulder. We're not perfect, but we're trying. And if we mess up, call us out. We need you to. When Ethan got home that night, he texted Jake. Crisis averted. Talked to Mom, and they made the dinner about both of us. I think they're really starting to get it. Jake sent a thumbs up emoji. Told you. Don't let one mistake make you lose hope. You're changing the pattern. Ethan knew Jake was right. Change wasn't about perfection, it was about keeping the conversation going. Even when old habits tried to creep back in. He couldn't expect them to get it right every time. But as long as they listened when he spoke up, it meant progress. For the first time, he felt like he had a say in his own family dynamic. And that was a victory in itself. The following weekend, Ethan found himself invited to a game night at Jared's place. This time, it wasn't just Jared's usual crowd. Their parents were coming too, along with a few mutual friends. It was the first time in a long while that Ethan felt genuinely excited to attend. Jared texted him beforehand. "We'll do teams. You and me against everyone else. Let's show them how it's done." Ethan couldn't help but grin. It was rare for Jared to suggest being on the same team. Usually, he'd pick someone flashier, leaving Ethan to fend for himself. This felt different, and Ethan was willing to see where it went. When he arrived, the atmosphere was relaxed. Jared was setting up a makeshift scoreboard, and Mom was preparing snacks. She gave Ethan a warm hug when he walked in. "You ready to show them how it's done?" she teased. Ethan chuckled. "Absolutely." Once the game started, Ethan and Jared found a rhythm. They were surprisingly in sync, anticipating each other's moves. Jared made a point of letting Ethan take the lead during some rounds, something he never used to do. When they won a trivia round, Jared high-fived him. "Dude, you carried that one. Knew you'd nail the history questions." It wasn't just the words, it was the way Jared actually acknowledged his contribution. It felt real, not just a passing compliment. Midway through the night, their dad pulled Ethan aside. "Having fun?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah. It's nice to just be here and feel part of it." Dad seemed thoughtful. "I've been thinking about how we used to just assume you were fine on your own. I didn't realize how much that was on us. Always putting you in the strong one box. I want you to know that we're proud of you. Not just because you're reliable, but because you're you." Ethan smiled, feeling the sincerity in his dad's words. "Thanks, Dad. I just wanted to feel like I mattered too." Dad put a hand on his shoulder. "You do. And we're going to keep showing you that." Later, as they took a break from the games, Mom approached with a plate of cookies. "I wanted to thank you for being patient with us, Ethan. We've been learning how to balance things better. I know we didn't always get it right before." Ethan took a cookie, appreciating the gesture. "I know it's not easy to change habits. But it means a lot that you're trying." She smiled. "We'll keep working on it. You deserve to feel valued." After the game night wrapped up, Jared walked him to the car. "You know, it's weird not being the center of attention," Jared admitted. "But I get it now. I never really thought about how it felt to be on the sidelines. I'm just glad you spoke up when you did." Ethan gave him a light punch on the shoulder. "Better late than never, right?" Jared laughed. "Yeah. Just don't get too used to beating me at trivia." On the drive home, Ethan couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. He never thought he'd see the day when his family would actively make him feel included, let alone celebrate his achievements without defaulting to Jared. It wasn't perfect, and he knew setbacks were still possible. But he felt like they'd made a real breakthrough. Instead of letting resentment build, he had finally spoken his mind. And instead of dismissing him, his family had listened and made changes. That was more than he dared to hope for just a few months ago. When he got home, he texted Jake. "Game night went great. Felt like they actually wanted me there. Starting to feel real." Jake's reply was immediate. "You earned it. Don't downplay your part in making this happen." Ethan knew Jake was right. Standing up for himself hadn't been easy. But it had made all the difference. It wasn't just about changing his family. It was about changing how he saw himself. Not just as the strong one, but as someone deserving of love and recognition. That night, as he lay in bed, Ethan realized he wasn't bracing for disappointment. He wasn't second-guessing every positive interaction, wondering when things would revert. For the first time, he felt like he could actually trust the progress. Maybe they would still mess up sometimes. But at least now they understood that he wasn't going to just fade into the background. He'd found his voice, and his family had finally started to hear it. And that made all the struggles worth it. A month after the game night, Ethan found himself feeling something unfamiliar. At ease. For once, he wasn't constantly bracing for disappointment, or waiting for his family to revert to old habits. It wasn't that everything was perfect. Jared still had moments where he accidentally took over conversations, and his parents occasionally slipped back into praising Jared's minor accomplishments. But now, instead of stewing in silence, Ethan spoke up. And more importantly, they listened. One evening, Jared invited him to a barbecue at the park, organized just for close friends and family. When Ethan arrived, he noticed Jared making rounds. But instead of dominating the event, He made a point of introducing Ethan to his new friends. "This is my brother, Ethan, the one who's actually got his life together," Jared joked with a grin. Ethan laughed, feeling the compliment land differently this time. It didn't feel patronizing. It felt genuine. As the evening went on, Dad approached him with a plate of grilled chicken. "You doing good, son?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah. It's nice just hanging out without feeling pushed aside." Dad looked thoughtful. "We've been talking a lot lately, your mom and I. Trying to make sure we're not just reacting but actually changing. We know we didn't always get it right. But I want you to know, we're proud of you. Not just for how you handled all this, but for making us see what we were missing." Ethan took the plate, letting the words sink in. "I appreciate that. I didn't want to keep feeling like I was invisible." Dad put a hand on his shoulder. "You never were. We just weren't looking closely enough. We're lucky you didn't just give up on us." Later, as the group started packing up, Jared came over and handed him a cold drink. "Did I do okay tonight? Didn't want to hog the spotlight," Jared asked with a smirk. Ethan smiled. "You did well. It actually felt balanced for once." Jared leaned against the picnic table. His expression was more serious. "I know it's been a lot. Me always taking up the space. But I'm glad you called me out. I didn't realize how much I was just assuming you'd be fine with it." Ethan nodded. "Yeah, I didn't realize how much it was hurting me either. But we're getting there." Jared raised his chin in a mock toast to not being a self-centered jerk. Ethan laughed. "To finally feeling like I belong." That night, back at his apartment, Ethan couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. He wasn't just a reliable brother anymore. He was part of the family. Not just because he could handle things but because they saw him. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about making an effort. And for once, everyone was doing their part. He texted Jake. "Barbecue was good. Felt like they really wanted me there. Not just out of guilt, but because they care." Jake replied. "That's how it should be. Proud of you for not giving up on them. You deserve this." Ethan set the phone down, feeling a sense of peace that had been missing for years. He knew things wouldn't always be smooth, but he'd learned how to keep the balance. More importantly, he'd learned to value himself, and not just settle for being the silent, dependable one. A week later, his parents invited him out for dinner. Just Ethan, not Jared. They wanted to hear about his next steps at work. Genuinely interested in his plans and dreams. For the first time, he felt like they weren't just filling the air with questions, but actually engaging. It was new, but it felt good. He was no longer the overlooked son who just dealt with things on his own. He was part of the family, and his voice mattered. After dinner, his mom hugged him tightly. "You know, I never realized how much we were relying on you to just be okay all the time. We didn't stop to think about how unfair that was. You deserve to be seen. I'm so glad you didn't just keep quiet." Ethan hugged her back, feeling a swell of emotion that he hadn't allowed himself before. "It's not about being perfect, Mom. I just needed to know that I mattered too." She nodded, wiping a tear. "You always did. We just needed a wake-up call to see it." As he drove home, Ethan thought about how much had changed. Not just with his family, but within himself. He had learned to advocate for his own worth, and to trust that he didn't have to carry everything alone. The quiet resentment he used to feel had been replaced by a calm assurance that he deserved love and recognition. And now, for the first time in years, he didn't doubt that he was part of the family. They were learning to meet him halfway, and he was allowing himself to feel worthy of that effort. As he lay in bed that night, Ethan knew the journey wasn't over. There would still be moments of frustration and old habits resurfacing. But now, he had the confidence to address them head-on, without feeling guilty for wanting more. He wasn't just the strong one anymore. He was Ethan, dependable, strong, and finally seen. And that made all the difference.